kickstand. Oh, it just snaps to life.
Hey everybody, it's Dick here. This is part 2 of my ride on Radar's Ducati Monster 1200. The Ducati Monster 1200 is an 1198cc 4-valve liquid-cooled twin-spark L-twin engine. It has a claimed 150 brake horsepower with 92 foot-pounds of torque. Dual floating discs, cornering ABS, lots of modes and adjustments, wheelie control, traction control. It's unlike any other Monster I've ever ridden, and made me just seductive enough to change my mind about Ducati ownership. There are 3 types of motorcyclists: the ones who admire Ducatis from afar and will never own one, the ones who have owned one and will never own one again, and members of the Ducati cult, owners or previous owners who are waiting with bated breath to own another one. Radar has drank the Kool-Aid, while I had a sip and quickly spat it out. Perhaps this cherry red 1200 flavor will have me looking to the sky for Zorp after all. Let's see how my ride is progressing.
Hey everybody, it's Dick here. Today I'm on Radar's Ducati Monster 1200. He's been begging me to ride this thing, and I've been putting him off. Ooh, that just sticky. He's gone. So it's got a quick shifter, which is a bit odd because there's a bit of a delay after you pull. Oh, that's a bit smoother. I don't know, let's see. Let's get your head around it. I've been riding a lot of bikes lately that I haven't been able to get my head around. Riding a Ducati Monster is a very unique thing. It's unlike any other motorcycle I've ever ridden. And it has a lot to do with the fact that you're in this kind of quasi-sport mode. They have a bit of a rise to the handlebars, and you're not sitting all the way forward on your wrists, but you're sitting more forward than you would on most other bikes. And this kind of naked sport thing is definitely what Ducati owns. They own this. You'll get Kawasaki's and some Japanese ones, those bikes in the sector, and usually you see guys in the city doing wheelies and dropping the shit. And the Ducati Monster is in a league all to itself. It's unlike any motorcycle. I'm sure there are bikes that people will compare it to, but I really think it's a very isolated, unique machine. Was that false neutral he was talking about? I just found a little bit of a false neutral between 4 and 5 using the quick shifter. He had warned me one between 5 and 6. I'm really glad there's a gear indicator on the screen, because the quick shifter downshifting doesn't feel like you're downshifting. It was very smooth right there. The engine braking isn't as abrupt as I remember my Ducati being, and it's not as mechanical. It's very smooth. He's right about the fueling. The fueling is very smooth. I was a bit concerned about getting on the Monster today and having it be very twitchy, but it's not twitchy at all. It's actually very smooth in the throttle response. I'm in sport mode too, which kind of scared me when he dropped it into sport mode. I usually kind of do road mode or touring mode or whatever first, and then see what the sport has to offer. But this is in sport mode. There's adjustability within each mode, and you can really tailor each mode. So it's not like sport mode is as brutal. There he goes. And he's gone. Let's see. Riding this Ducati when you're way out over, this thing revs to no limit, man. 10,000 Redline. That's pretty awesome. I was going 60 in third gear, 62 in third gear, and had yonks of revs to go. But on a Ducati Monster, you're kind of out over that front light. You feel like you're out over the front wheel. And that, I did endo my Ducati a couple times when I owned it. So you have this sensation that you can very easily lift up that rear wheel into the air and find yourself going over the handlebars. The seating position on this is a little more forgiving. That's a weird off-camber. A little more forgiving than my Ducati was. You're sitting a bit more upright on this newer version. You do feel how light this bike is and how easily you could get this front end up. I know I'm talking about leaning down on the front end, but this thing I think is a wheelie monster. I'm just sitting in third gear and I'm just watching these RPMs tick on this dash, which is actually quite clear and nice. It's really low key. Wow, the front end is really light on this. The front end got really kind of wobbly when I came down that hill at speed. It's a twin, but actually the throttle and the RPMs remind me a lot of a four-cylinder bike where you don't really need to spend a lot of time on your brakes. You can do a lot of your bike control with coming on and off the throttle. I'm at 5,000 RPM and it's got that familiar old tingle right in the balls. I'm resting on my balls on this tank, and this tank is millimeters from my belly. I'm not resting my belly on the tank so much, but it wouldn't take much for me to rest my belly on the tank, and I'm getting that old feeling Ducati ball tingle. And whenever I come off the throttle, I haven't had a lot of opportunity to use my brakes, but whenever I come off the throttle, I'm slamming down the seat into my balls. The angle of the seat is a bit more relaxed than my old Monster as well, so I don't feel as pitched forward as I did and like resting on my arms. When you come off of the throttle, you're definitely sliding forward into your manhood. And it's very vibey down in the balls. But other than that, a little bit of vibration in the throttle hand, around 4,000, 3,800 RPM. And I didn't notice it before, but it's funny how my throttle hand is a bit asleep at this point. Haven't been on the bike, looks like I've been on the bike about 12 minutes, and my hand's a bit buzzy already. I didn't notice it, but now that I'm doing kind of the spot checks around the body, my hand is a bit asleep, a bit cold from the vibration. Ducatis are very visceral, so you definitely feel you're aware of the machine. You're aware of the machine. Kind of aware of the moving parts beneath you, all the gears and belts turning, and it's kind of an exciting thing in these days of sterile motorcycles. I'm just thinking now how he's really lucky to have dropped his bike on his brake side and not his clutch side, because pulling in this hydraulic clutch, I forgot how heavy these hydraulic clutches feel. It definitely feels heavy on the clutch, and that gets tiring over time. I'm not tired yet, and it's not nearly as heavy as the old ones, because these Brembo ones I think were a bit lighter, but hydraulic clutches are always a bit unforgiving for me. There you go. The low RPMs on a Ducati, they tell you you're low. It can rev to the moon. If your RPM are too low, it'll tell you. Then he's gonna be gone. There he goes. Meow. Bit wobbly, yeah. I think I remember my Ducati being a bit wobbly. This has very little input to the handlebars and gives you that little bit of wobble. So when you're hitting some uneasy stuff like this gravel or a little bit of a bump on an off camber, it makes you a little bit uneasy. But man, this thing can go, 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 go. Blind turn. Lots of vibration above 6,000 RPM all through the bike. The mirrors are, Jesus, he's gone. Very light, very bouncy. The front end just lifts. I don't even feel like the front wheel is touching the ground. False neutral between 4 and 5. Yeah, this thing is just designed to go fast. It's one of those bikes where you just kind of hold on for dear life and hope that the wheels are going to stick. I don't feel in control on this bike. And I've had more bugs dying against my helmet on this ride than I have had all season. Maybe because I'm going head first. Ugh. Suspensions. I haven't noticed suspension being very stiff other than that little bump there. So the suspension is pretty well suited to the bike and my weight. I'd like the front suspension to feel just a bit more compliant, like stick to the road a bit more. I don't know if it's the narrow wheel, the small narrow wheel in the front that I'm not used to. Let's go over to the speed bump. Yeah, the suspension's quite nice, actually. He was talking about how his wheels were squaring off. I'm not surprised riding it. I feel like I want to stay up on, even on the turns, I feel like I want to stay kind of upright on this and not really dip it that low. That combined with the 150 horses, I think I'd pretty much square off these wheels. There would be serious chicken strips on these wheels if I owned this bike. I didn't feel that so much on my Monster. I was always kind of on the sidewall on my Monster. But on this one, yeah, this thing, you can get really low on it. I guess it will go low, but it's just my comfort level at this point. Yeah, dual Brembos on the front. Neutral. Dual Brembos on the front.
As bad as you remembered.
What's that?
As bad as you remembered.
It's exactly as I remember, but it's not bad.
They've come on.
They've come on.
Yeah.
It's more, well, it's definitely more refined.
Yeah.
And it's less, I mean, it still feels like brutal, like it's a monster. It hasn't lost its character.
More usable.
But it's definitely a lot more usable. I find that, I feel that it's a bit taller, so I'm a bit more reluctant to kind of drop it onto its sidewall, but when I did, it stuck.
Oh, it's stable.
So it's odd how it's like,
yeah.
It's almost like there's a threshold where you're like, well, all right, now I'm good.
That could be the tyre squared.
Maybe.
So go with it.
Yeah.
But, the XSR, it felt like it handled better.
A little bit, yeah.
But
it felt more planted.
This is far more stable. And what is funny, when you look down, you'll see you're going a lot quicker than you think you are.
Oh yeah, you definitely are. Yeah. And the thing is too about this, the front end feels very light and a bit splashy. Have you noticed that though?
Well, it could be the scalloping.
No, I feel like it's lifting. Like it lifts.
You are praying with 150 brakes.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, what are you still on sport mode?
Yeah.
We'll go to touring.
No, I like it in sport mode.
Like it in sport
yeah.
mode. We've got a dual carriageway for a bit now, so...
Oh, maybe touring.
Well, no, but you can... No, because the fueling's fine in sport.
Yeah, it's good. It's actually, the fueling is really... Because I was afraid it would be twitchy like my old one.
And if you put it in touring, it's like butter.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it is good. But, well, you can see what it's like on a cruise, on a motorway cruise.
It's funny because although you're leaning more forward, you're not really leaning forward, but although you're leaning kind of forward onto that front wheel, it's amazing how light it feels. Because you feel like I'm putting all this weight there, it should feel, it's odd, but it feels splashy, but it doesn't feel out of control.
Not like the MT-09, which is always like that.
Yeah.
Which is fun.
Yeah.
But tiring.
It's tiring. Yeah, exactly. No,
enough power for you in that.
A little bit.
Have you redlined it?
Fuck no.
Yeah, do it. When you join down here, redline it.
Okay. I'm amazed. It rides a lot like a four-cylinder.
Yeah.
With how the long range of revs you got in it. Because normally on a four-cylinder you can just control the bike with the throttle, you don't have to touch the brakes.
Yeah.
And I was doing that all through there.
Yeah.
Like I did not need to touch the brakes at all, it was just throttle, shifting. Yeah, it was really quite, it was like a revelation.
How are you getting on with the quick shifter?
A lot of false neutrals between 4 and 5.
You shouldn't be in 4 or 5 then. This is in 5.
What's that?
This is in 5.
Yeah, it's
doing 90.
And that's where it drops.
Looking for 6.
Yeah, you keep looking for 6, exactly. I think this, oh well, you do have a red line, yeah. So I was gonna say, because on the Street Twin you don't get a tack, so it's like 65 or 69 or whatever. How are you finding that?
It's good. No, it's good. Yeah.
It's fun.
It is fun. It's very stable.
Yeah. Well, because it's so fucking heavy.
Yeah. Well, the front feels like it needs a good push in.
Yeah.
But again, that could be just coming from that, which is...
Well, definitely coming from this, you probably feel like that's...
But then I found that really heavy compared to the XSR.
Huh. Oh, really? I'll have to think back to the XSR. It's been a long time since I've been on an XSR.
Oh, you should redline it at least once.
Okay, alright.
Maybe not there.
Yeah.
Like this road. Make sure there's no van.
Yeah. Yeah, I was saying, you're really lucky you didn't drop the clutch side.
Yeah.
Because I dropped mine on the clutch side and had a short shift on the clutch side, and it's so heavy doing that all the time.
Yeah, I know. You know, I put that lever on for 5 minutes and went no.
So you're really lucky you dropped it on the brake side. To redline it. There we are, redline. Okay, I redlined it. Jesus Christ. That'll do. Miles an hour in third gear. Unbelievable. Well, that is a crazy, crazy thing right there. Absolutely nuts. I definitely had that splashiness. Definitely had that splashiness at speed, but I did not feel like this thing was not stuck to the road. It's a very odd sensation where you're like, oh, this feels very splashy, but yeah, let's go 100 miles an hour. So it's an odd, there hasn't been a time where I felt like this thing is gonna slide out from under me, or I'm gonna get tank slap or anything. But if it's going 103 miles an hour in third gear, what is it doing in sixth gear? It has the Ducati calf slicers where you're just catching the pegs right in your calf. A little filtering. Didn't think we get any filtering in here. So the seat height is a bit taller than my old Ducati. A bit heels off the ground. On the toes on one side. Actually, yeah, balls on my feet. So a bit taller than I remember, and definitely than mine was. A bit clunky, sport mode. Wheel lock is a bit narrow. So sport mode, first gear putting around, you definitely feel the power in that throttle. There is a urban mode which knocks the bike down to 100 horsepower, which is quite funny. I'm sure it adjusts the throttle response and the traction control as well, but the urban mode is meant to make this a bit less disgusting in terms of power. He asked me how the wind protection was on the highway, and I was so worried about trying to get it to redline the way he suggested that I didn't really notice the wind, but I guess that's the whole point. Not noticing the wind. That quick shift is cool. You got to remind yourself you got it, but once you, I guess, you build in the muscle memory, it would be perfectly fine and seamless. It's funny going from a bike. Woohoo! Woohoo! Mr. Toad's Wild Ride there. Anyway, what I was saying, you get into a groove of how you're riding your bike and how it handles through the twisties and how it handles through tight corners, and then you get on something like this and you just kind of, you get caught out. You gotta remind yourself that you're riding the bike with twice the power. That's cool. Hell yeah. Pussyfooted that. Max 10. We have to go back there so I can redeem myself in that turn.
What?
We have to go back and so I can redeem myself in that turn.
I'm back up.
Yeah.
I think you can do better.
10 miles an hour warning was like, how the fuck?
It's city riding.
Yeah.
You're looking down instead of your vanishing point, because you're just so used to doing it in the city.
Well, yeah, that and the fact that there are blind turns. Now that I kind of know what the turns are, I can kind of anticipate. But I was like, what is a 10 mile an hour turn?
No, I don't know it is. That's queers and steers.
Ooh, back end just kicked out on me. The wind is non-existent on this motorcycle. It's crazy how this kind of monster vacuum exists when you're riding this thing at speed. This is where I die. Brakes are alright. And the torque there at 4,000 RPM, holy crap. Ooh. This thing is so fucking fast.
Honestly, a tank.
That's how much I thought it would be.
What do they think? Do they think we're going to come here and fill up our fucking lilos or something?
Yeah, that's why at the other one I was like, oh, I have a pound, and you're like, it's 50p. I'm like, where are we? We're in the sticks.
The provinces. Where the prole is down here, you know. With the proletariat. You and your fucking inner party.
What do you mean, you and yours? I'm infiltrating it from the inside. That's how you bring down the the machine from the inside.
Internationally, mate.
Yes.
I was like, oh come ye, oh come all ye comrades.
If you like that video and you want to see more like them, hit like, share, and subscribe.